Hey everybody, how's it going? So let's talk 1979s or 1980. I see it different years everywhere. On IMDb it says 1979, Wikipedia says 1980, but it says a release in Honolulu in 1980. So I consider it an 80s slasher, even though it's not really like your typical slasher. But 1979, 80s, Don't Go in the House, directed by Joseph Ellison, starring Dan Grimaldi. If you haven't seen this movie, I'll give you a little spoiler free thing quick. Absolutely see this movie. It's yeah, it has a lot of psycho like esque themes in it and ideas in it, but it's definitely its own thing. We have Donnie Kohler, who is just this. I don't even know how to describe Donnie. He's like a child almost. Like he's like perpetually stuck in like this childlike mentality from his mother, who was extremely abusive to him and would burn his arms over a stove to try to purify him of evil and evil thoughts, which leads to him just going crazy basically after his mother passes away. But that's pretty much the whole thing you need to know going into this. But if you haven't seen Don't Go in the House, it's on Tubi right now. It's been on Tubi forever. So definitely check it out. It is evil, man. This movie is fucking evil. But so good. So let's talk about the movie here. The house that Donnie lives in with his mom is such a creepy looking house, man. Like it is so like just unnerving looking. And it looks just like reminds me so much of, and this is like one of the few Psycho comparisons. Like it looks like Norman Bates' house from Psycho, like behind the hotel and everything. It gives me strong vibes of that house, which it's great. Like the shots of the exterior of the house and everything, awesome. Like it's such a creepy house. They do such a good job framing it and shooting it from the outside. Like I wish this house was still around. I'm pretty sure they tore it down, but I would love to go visit this house just to see it in person. And just the whole way that they portray Donnie in this movie is that he's just so traumatized from this abuse from his mother throughout his childhood and everything that he, like I said, like he stays in a childlike mentality. Like after he finds his mom dead when he comes home from work, he works in the incinerator and stuff. And the guy that gets lit on fire at the beginning, and Donnie doesn't know what to do. He just freezes and he's just staring at the fire. Like the use of fire in this movie, tying into his whole abuse and backstory and everything, is great. Like there's a lot of scenes with flames or fire or candles and stuff that just really hammer home like how traumatized this guy is from being fucking burnt, man, like badly, like as a child and stuff from his mother, who was just sadistic, man. This his fucking mother, man, is one sadistic woman. But like once he comes home and finds out that she's dead, like the first thing that he does is like he realizes that he's free, and he starts jumping on furniture and smoking a cigarette in the house and like blasting music loud like he's a child. Like he's finally free from his mother and now he can do whatever he wants. But he doesn't know what to do with his life because he's been so sheltered and so dependent on his mother that like he has like no will of his own. He has no opinions. He has no thoughts of his own. Like even in the disco scene later, like before he goes to the disco and stuff, and he goes in to try to get a suit and everything to look good for the disco. Like every time the guy says to him, like, "What about this one?" and stuff, he'll be like, "Well, what do you think?" And like, "Well, I think this one looks good, but why don't we try this one here?" Okay, well, what do you think they look, or what do these people think about this outfit? Like he has no thoughts of his own, which just like really plays into how fucked up this guy was from his upbringing with his mother and everything, and that just he was so dependent on her and had no type of opinions of his own, and that he's just stuck in this perpetual childlike state. And Grimaldi's performance in this movie, I love his performance in this movie. Like, he does such a great job. He doesn't overact much in this movie. Like, he really plays this character so well. And I can't say enough about his performance in this movie. And this is a movie that I do not hear talked about hardly enough. Like, almost never. Like, I never hear people bring this movie up. Like, the only time I've heard this movie being brought up is watching a horror channel that I've been following for years, and he's a big fan of this movie. That's like it, man. Like, I even looked on YouTube and stuff. Like, there's like nothing about this movie. Like, it's a shame, man, because this movie is such a unique movie, especially like right before Friday the 13th came out and started the whole slasher boom of the 80s and everything. Like I said, yeah, there's a lot of psycho themes throughout this, but like I said, it's like definitely stands on its own as its own thing. But we have the flashbacks of Donnie's mother burning his arms over the stove and stuff. Like, just takes both his arms like this, and the fire burning onto his arms and stuff. Dude, it's fucking some sadistic shit, man. Like, that's fucking crazy. I wish they did though. This is probably my only gripe with this movie. I wish that they spent a little more time like showing Donnie's descent into madness, like him going crazy. Like, it's basically as soon as his mother dies, he starts hearing voices and everything, and then he immediately goes out and starts killing. Like, I feel like they could have spent a little more time like showing like a more gradual descent into him losing his mind and going completely nuts into like kill mode and everything. But it's a minor gripe. Like, it's nothing that really bothers me when I watch this movie. And the whole stainless room, the metal-proof room, and everything that he makes in the house and stuff, and the way that he kills his victims, man, is just fucked up. It is just evil, like straight up evil. Like, this might be like the weapon he uses and everything with the flamethrower and stuff. Like, might be like the most just fucking vile, vicious shit that I've seen in like a slasher movie. And like I said, it's hard to call this a slasher in a way. It's more of just like a psychological unraveling killer type movie, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But man, what he does to these women, like when we first see his first victim and stuff, when he goes to the flower shop and he wants to get flowers for his mother, even though she's already dead, and uses that in his excuse to get this woman into his van and drive her to the house, and says like, I gotta stop here, my mother's sick and everything, and lets her in the house, and she comes in, which title of the movie, don't go in that fucking house. But no one listens, they all do. And just when we see her hanging on the hook in that metal room, fireproof room, and then he pours gasoline on top of them to add fucking like insult to injury, man. Like, I really don't think he needed that. Like, the flamethrower enough, I think, was good enough, man, to like cook the shit out of these women. But dude, it's so fucking vicious looking. Like, just the way of her hanging there and stuff. And then he comes in with like the fire suit and everything, with the mask and everything. Such a cool look. It looks so good. Then he just cooks her alive, man, with the flamethrower. And it's just evil. Like, that's the only word I could use to describe this. Well, how he tortures and kills these women is just fucking evil, man. And then we have his friend Bobby and stuff, who's like the only person who has any care for Donnie at all in this movie. Like, I like Bobby in a way. I mean, yeah, he cheats on his wife and stuff when he sets up the whole like double date at the disco and stuff, but I mean, in his defense, they are dynamite, as he describes them like 4 or 5 times in that scene on the phone call. So he gets a pass. And he's just a good guy to Donnie. Like, he's concerned about him. He calls him multiple times to check if he's okay and check if his mother's doing all right. Like, and then he invites him out and everything. Like, he's the only person who shows any care or concern over Donnie in this whole movie. And I just like how they played his character off like that. And I feel like this movie just would not be made today. Just for the fact of like hitchhiking and like getting in strangers' cars and stuff like that, like, which is a lot more prevalent in the 70s and 80s than today. Like, when's the last time any of you picked up a hitchhiker? You just don't see it that much today. Like, it was a lot more common back then. So if they were to like remake this or something, they would have to like think of some other way for Donnie to get them, all these women, to his house, because like 3, 4 women just hop in this guy's car and just like, all right, yeah, it's cool, like, let's go. And then like stopping at his house, and just like, it's such a creepy house, and just he's just such a weird guy to begin with, that like no woman in their right mind is getting in a car with this guy, and especially stopping at his creepy ass house and then going inside and just waiting around while he's running up and down the stairs, like saying his mother's sick, and she's the first woman saying she needs to call a cab and everything, and he's like, yeah, and then I love how he like pretends to call the doctor, and then he pushes down on the phone so that it's not a real phone call. Just his manipulation and stuff is fucking sick, man. Like, this guy's so sick in the head, and just the voices and everything that he hears of his mother and everything, the voices are very well done. Like, they are very creepy, and just like the charred corpses and everything of his victims that he ends up just propping up in chairs in the room in his house, and they look pretty good, like, especially for the time. Like, they look very, very good, and very, very fucking unnerving. Like, just seeing this guy talk to like 3 charred, burnt to death corpses propped up in chairs in this room is so unnerving and so fucking disturbing. That like, they did such a great job with that, with the like the atmosphere in this movie and the tone of it and everything. And like his whole conversation with them, like when he's drinking and he has like the liquor bottle hidden in the drawer, and he starts talking to them and everything, saying like, I brought you in, I gave you shelter, and like, you're lying to me, and like, don't anybody take a sip of this liquor and stuff, because I'll know if anyone takes a sip, and besides, I don't like when women drink. And like, just his whole dialogue and stuff with these dead corpses it's hilarious to me, just because I have a dark ass sense of humor, but it is disturbing. Like, it really is. Like, the way that they shot those scenes and stuff, like with just like the close-ups on the corpses' faces and everything while he's talking, so good, awesome stuff. And then probably my favorite shot in this movie, when Donnie's walking through the house, and then he looks up the stairs and he sees his mother's burnt corpse up there, and she's like, I'll get you, Donnie, and like, just his like reaction and stuff, like he just like holds his head, like he's can't stand what he's hearing and seeing, but like, it's not like he's like totally freaking out, that like he's like screaming, or like that he's like petrified. It's just like, I don't know, like, I can't describe it, like the way that he acts in this movie. It's like, I really don't know. Like, it's just like, it's not like a full on like he's freaking out. It's more that like he's questioning his sanity in a way, like knowing that his mother is dead, but at the same time he's seeing her around the house and stuff. So he's just like questioning his mental state and everything. Like, it's so well done. It really is. And then the priest's performance, when he goes to see the priest, he overacts like a motherfucker in this. But I mean, he's only in this movie for a short little bit. But like, when he shows him the scars and stuff on his arms and everything, dude, like those scars look so fucking, they look great, like the way they did the effects and everything. But just like thinking about that, and thinking about all the times that his mother burnt his arms like that over the stove over who knows how many years, and just seeing the end result of it, and like his whole arms are just scalded and just scarred over and stuff, like, it's fucking unnerving, man. Like, it's really disturbing shit. And then, like I said, the scene with him picking out clothes to go to a disco after his friend calls him and everything. It says, I got these 2 dynamite women, and I got everything planned out, and just meet me at the disco. And he goes in there, and he's trying to pick out, he sees the couple who picked out the Matador red shirt and everything. And he asks the worker there, and he starts saying, what did they think about it? and always just looking for someone else's opinion or someone else's validation. Like, you feel bad for this guy in a way. Like, of course, like, what he does and everything is fucking evil, man. But like, they still portray him in a way that you could feel bad for him in a way. Like, just from seeing all the flashbacks and knowing his backstory and just the insane traumatic abuse that this guy was put through as a child, you can't help but feel bad for him a little bit. Again, not like I'm condoning anything he does or like burning these women alive. Of course not. But I still feel bad for Donnie, like at some points in this movie. Just seeing how fucked up he is and traumatized he is from his past and everything. They do such a good job of walking that line of making you feel bad for him in a way, but then him just being such a sadistic person with everything that he does to these women and burning them alive with a flamethrower and shit. That is just, I don't know. They did a great job of like walking that tightrope and not having it lean on either side. I mean, it does lean on the side of him being a vile fucker, but it's definitely well done with how they like play off a little bit of sympathy that you can have for this character after everything that he's been through. Because it's not his fault. I mean, his mom was just a fucking out of her mind person and just believed and put into his head from childhood that people are evil and people are born evil and that they have to be purified by fire and they have to burn the evil out. And just that whole backstory on him, just it makes you feel bad for him. And I don't know, the way that they do it so well. And it's not a late 70s, early 80s movie without a fucking cheesy disco scene like we see in every one of these movies. And then, like, again, with the fire, again, always playing a role in this movie. Like when the girl is trying to get Donnie to dance. And I relate with that, man, because I don't fucking dance. Like, I don't. Like, I will not dance. Like, that's just, I don't do it. So, like, I totally understand where he's coming from when he's like, no, I don't dance and everything. And she's pulling his arms and stuff to try to get him to dance, and his arms are going over the candle, and, like, he feels the burn from it, and it reminds him of his mother burning his arms and everything. And he takes the candle and just, like, breaks it over the woman's head, and, like, her, like, hair goes fucking ablaze on fire, man. Like, that's such a crazy scene. And then he gets beat up by the brother in the parking lot, and then he gets away and stuff, but like this brother wants to fucking kill him and everything. Like, you can't blame him. But and then I like, again, like, it's just like his childlike nature, like when he picks up the two drunk girls. And again, that's why I said, like, this movie probably would not be made today. Like, with just all these women just voluntarily getting in this creepy guy's car and then going back to his house, like, with no questions asked, like this, like they just want to be burnt to death, basically. Like, they just want to fucking die in this movie. But just, and then when they get in the car with him and they notice that he's bleeding a little bit on his face and stuff from when he got beat up, and then he says, yeah, I got jumped by 3 guys. And they had knives, and like just the way he just like goes on exaggerating this whole story just to try to like impress them in a way, or just like not seem like a complete loser and everything. Really, really cool and hysterical too. I'm just saying, I beat them all up, and I was in the army. I was in the Green Berets, and then one of the drunk girls is like, "Isn't that the Navy?" And he's like, "Well, it was like the Green Berets, but it was a special division and everything." That's such great dialogue there. Then the scene when then Bobby and Father Garrity and stuff go to Donnie's house and stuff, and they're worried about him because of the brother who's trying to kill him for lighting the girl's hair on fire. And the scene with Father Garrity after they rescue the 2 girls out of the room, and he's walking up the stairs slowly, reminds me so much of Psycho. Like when Sam Loomis is not Sam Loomis, when the detective is walking up the stairs slowly, and then Bates comes out from around the stairs and slashes him and he falls down the stairs. It doesn't play out that way, but like just the way that he's walking up the stairs slowly and stuff like that, and then Donnie appears on the top in the fire suit and everything. I get strong Psycho vibes from that, like for that scene and everything. Then the corpses, it's a recurring theme, I guess, in these last few movies, in the Maniac remake movies, and then this one. And I was supposed to do this on Monday after the Maniac movies, but I got like a fucking migraine that was killing me all day yesterday, so I wasn't doing anything. And then the corpses all come to life, and they start saying to him, like, "I hate you. We hate you, Donnie." And everything, like, that's the last thing that he wants to hear, is being hated and just not fitting in, and just, and then they just fucking, again, like, hallucination, yeah, unless, like, they hint that it's supernatural, which we don't see anything supernatural in this movie except for, like, him hearing voices, which is just his, his fucking mind state and him going crazy. But they just attack him and everything, and then the house goes up in flames, and Donnie dies in the fire. And then it's a weird ending, man. Like, if anyone's seen this movie and they have an opinion on what goes on here in the ending, let me know, because I'm interested to hear other people's opinions. But, like, when we see this little kid Michael watching the TV, and they're showing on the news, they're talking about Donnie's house, being burnt to the ground, and finding like corpses inside, and like 5 bodies or something like that, and that it's an ongoing investigation. And this kid Michael is like being yelled at by his mother and stuff to shut the TV off, and then she goes over and beats him and like smacks him in the face like 2-3 times. And then this kid starts hearing the same voices that Donnie was hearing, saying like, "We'll help you," like, "We'll help you, don't worry," and like stuff. So my interpretation of this is that it's just showing like the cycle of violence continue, like how it just keeps on going. That like Donnie as a kid and everything, he was abused traumatically, and he turned into what he turned into, like this schizophrenic, almost just unhinged person who went on to start killing people. And is that what they're trying to say here with Michael, with the little kid, that like him being abused by his mother is just that cycle of violence repeating itself, and that he's going to grow up the same way? Like, that's the way I take it. So I mean, if anyone hasn't seen this movie, or that don't make sense, if people have seen this movie, definitely let me know what you think about the ending, because that's an ending that I've always wondered to myself. I think that's pretty much a good interpretation of it, but unless this kid also is just like already mentally fucked up in the head and hearing voices, but like they're the same voices that we hear Donnie hearing throughout the whole movie. So I think that's the only way I can look at it, really, is that it's just showing that when you're a kid and you're being abused like this, you're so defenseless, like both physically and mentally, of protecting yourself from this violence that you're always going through and always being, a victim of. And when you get older and stuff, like as it continues, it just spirals out of control, like it did for Donnie. I don't know. That's how I interpret the ending. But that's Don't Go in the House. If anyone hasn't seen this movie, absolutely check it out. I don't know why you watched a spoiler discussion on it if you haven't. But like I always say. But people who have seen this movie, what do you think about it? Is it a favorite of yours? Have you heard of this movie? Like, do you enjoy it? Like, I don't see this movie talked about nearly enough. And it's a shame, because this is such a great movie. But yeah, if you guys like this movie, if it's a favorite of yours, let me know, because I love to hear from other people who enjoyed this movie. I got some Lucio Fulci coming up right after this, so stay tuned for some Fulci. Alright guys.